Title: Path of Hope. In a small American town known for its peace and close-knit community, lives the Harrison family. John, the father, is a hard-working farmer, and his wife, Emily, is a beloved elementary school teacher. Together, they have 2 children. Sarah, a teenager full of dreams, and Tim, a 10-year-old boy who loves exploring the nature surrounding their home. The Harrison family's life seems like a fairy tale, safe, comfortable, and full of love. But when an unexpected tragedy shakes the foundation of the family, they find themselves on a difficult path, filled with challenges, fear, anguish, and ultimately hope. Chapter 1. The Broken Tradition. The morning was clear and peaceful at the Harrison farm. John and Emily were preparing breakfast, while Sarah and Tim played in the yard. It was the day of the town's annual fall fair, an event the Harrison family looked forward to every year. John and Emily were busy setting up a food stand, while Sarah and Tim eagerly helped out. However, this perfect morning started to fall apart when John received an urgent call from the bank. The farm had fallen into an unexpected financial crisis due to an administrative error, with a loan about to come due and not enough resources to pay it off. The Harrison family found themselves on the verge of losing everything they had built over the years. The devastating news hit like a bombshell, turning the dream of the fall fair into an imminent nightmare. The atmosphere of joy and excitement quickly gave way to a tense and desolate silence. John tried to keep his composure, but worry was etched on his face. Emily, fighting back tears, tried to smile for the kids, who were confused and scared by the sudden shift in their world. As the fair approached, the shadow of the crisis loomed over every moment. The sense of security the family once had was replaced by uncertainty and fear of what would come next. The Harrisons' life was about to change in ways they could never have imagined. Chapter 2. The Internal Struggle. The days that followed were a whirlwind for the Harrison family. John and Emily desperately tried to find a solution to their financial crisis, but each attempt seemed to lead to a dead end. The stress and worry began to create cracks in the family's foundation that had once seemed unbreakable. Sarah, who used to be the source of joy and energy in the house, now became distant and quiet. She felt the weight of her parents' expectations and the pressure of her growing responsibilities. Tim, on the other hand, was scared and confused, not fully understanding the gravity of the situation, but sensing that something was wrong. Emily, who had always been the backbone of the family, started to feel overwhelmed. She tried to keep things normal for the children, but her concern for the future was consuming her. The arguments between her and John, once rare and brief, became more frequent and intense, creating an atmosphere of constant tension. While John struggled to find a financial solution, Emily sought support from the local community. Although there was a genuine effort to help, the contributions were not enough to cover the growing debt. A sense of hopelessness began to set in, and the family found themselves fighting to maintain their dignity as the situation seemed to spiral out of control. At the height of this turmoil, something unexpected happened. The Harrison farm, once a symbol of prosperity and security, began to suffer from a series of mechanical and structural problems that worsened their financial situation. The familiar, welcoming scene that had been their foundation of comfort now felt bleak, leading to a growing sense of defeat. Chapter 3. Echoes of Loneliness. The atmosphere in the Harrison home was thick with a heavy silence. Afternoons, once filled with laughter and conversation, were now overtaken by the constant background noise of unspoken worries and distant glances. The family was trying to keep up appearances, but the tension was palpable. Sarah spent most of her time locked in her room, studying without much focus. Her dreams of a bright future seemed distant and unreachable. She began to pull away from her friends, not wanting to be a burden to them, yet feeling a deep loneliness, unsure of whom to turn to. Tim, despite his young age, knew something was wrong. His eyes reflected the same confusion as his parents. Nights were hard for him, filled with nightmares and fears brought on by the sudden changes in his life. He sought comfort in the family's old dog, Buddy, but even the animals seemed to sense the growing tension. John, in his fight to save the farm, began to distance himself emotionally from Emily and the children. His focus was on finding solutions, but he was so consumed by stress that he failed to notice the emotional toll his absence was having on his family. He spent sleepless nights and frustrating days, feeling powerless in the face of their struggles. Emily, on the other hand, tried to keep up the appearance of normalcy for the children, but the financial difficulties started to take a toll on her mental health. She spent sleepless nights, thinking of ways to improve their situation, but with each failed attempt, her despair grew. The feeling of isolation and the pressure of dealing with the situation alone weighed heavily on her shoulders. Chapter 4. The Abyss of Despair. As the financial crisis worsened, the Harrison family's life was plunged into growing chaos. Each day seemed to bring a new hardship, and hopes for a solution began to dwindle. The farm, once a symbol of stability, now felt like an unbearable burden. John tried to stay calm as he faced a series of setbacks. His attempts to renegotiate the loan failed, and the creditors began to apply even more pressure. The sense of defeat was becoming almost tangible. John found himself questioning his decisions and feeling incapable of providing the security and comfort his family had always known. Emily, desperate for a solution, started seeking help outside the community. She reached out to charity organizations and social services, but the assistance offered wasn't enough to solve the immediate problem. The pressure of not being able to help her husband and children weighed heavily on her, increasing her stress and sense of inadequacy. Sarah, who had started working part-time to help with expenses, was exhausted and discouraged. School, once a place of joy and learning, had become a space filled with anxiety and fatigue. She was struggling to keep up with her studies and responsibilities at home, but the pressure was becoming unbearable. Her self-esteem was at an all-time low, and she felt increasingly isolated. Tim, meanwhile, was trying to make sense of what was happening to his family. He noticed the changes in his parents and felt the growing tension, but he couldn't fully grasp the reasons behind it. The fear of losing the farm and the security it represented was taking a toll on his emotional health, making him more withdrawn and sad. The tension reached its peak when an accidental fire, caused by a short circuit on the farm, destroyed part of the crop. The disaster was a devastating blow to the family, already hanging by a thread. Word of the fire spread through the community, and while there were offers of help, the sense of loss and helplessness was overwhelming. Chapter 5. In the void of loneliness. After the fire, the Harrison farm was in ruins. The destroyed crops, the damaged house, and the mounting debts had become an almost unbearable burden. The family was engulfed in a sea of loneliness and sorrow, struggling to find hope amid the despair. Sarah, now completely overwhelmed, withdrew even more from the world around her. Her friends at school noticed the change and tried to offer support, but she felt so disconnected that she couldn't accept their help. The pressure of her responsibilities and the sense of failure were eroding her confidence. She spent hours alone, staring out the window, trying to find a reason to keep going. Emily, sinking deeper into sadness and guilt, felt like she was spiraling into helplessness. The nights were endless, with her torn between worrying about the future and the pain of being unable to do more. Her moments of loneliness were filled with silent tears and bitter thoughts. The sense of having failed her family and her inability to restore the joy that once filled their home haunted her. John, on the other hand, was consumed by a sense of failure. The pain of watching his dream collapse and the weight of being the provider for his family were crushing him. His journey to find a solution seemed endless, and the lack of progress was taking a toll on his mental health. He often isolated himself, distancing from Emily and the kids, feeling he didn't have the strength to face what lay ahead. Tim, still young and vulnerable, was deeply affected by the changes in his family. He spent most of his time in his room, hiding in his own little world, trying to escape the tension and sadness that filled the house. His favorite toys and activities no longer held the same joy, and he was struggling to understand what was happening to his parents. In a moment of introspection, Emily began to reflect on the values and lessons she had learned over the years. She wondered if there was something she could learn or apply to help the family overcome the crisis. Loneliness was becoming a space of painful reflection, but also an opportunity to seek a deeper meaning in the midst of the darkness. Chapter 6. Light in the Darkness. The Harrisons had reached their lowest point. The loss of the crops and the fire had left the family in a state of near total despair. However, amid the darkness, small sparks of hope began to emerge, offering a faint light toward a more promising future. Emily, still engulfed in her pain, decided to seek help from a support group for families in financial distress. While the group offered little in terms of immediate solutions, the stories of others who had gone through similar crises gave her valuable perspective. She began to see that she wasn't alone and that strength and resilience were possible, even in the most difficult circumstances. Encouraged by Emily's experience, Sarah decided to volunteer in the community. She started helping at a local shelter where she met people facing similar hardships. Though the work was tiring, Sarah began to feel a renewed sense of purpose. The connection with others and the feeling that she was making a positive difference helped to ease some of her emotional burden. John, after many sleepless nights, found a support group for struggling entrepreneurs. Through the meetings and the advice offered, he came up with some new ideas to handle their financial situation. Although the recovery wasn't quick, he began to see small improvements and felt encouraged to keep fighting. Tim, who had been isolating himself, began to open up a little more. With his father's help, he started working on a small project, building a wooden cabin in the backyard. The project not only helped Tim stay distracted, but it also brought the family together on a shared task, providing a sense of achievement and collaboration. As time passed, the family began to realize that while the road to recovery was slow and full of challenges, there was a light at the end of the tunnel. Small victories and moments of connection helped to rebuild confidence and hope. The sense of despair gradually gave way to a renewed determination to overcome adversity. Chapter 7. The Troubled Path. As the Harrison family began to find small victories, new challenges emerged, testing the resilience of each member and putting their determination to overcome adversity to the test. The road to recovery was filled with ups and downs, and the journey was far from easy. John, after implementing some of the new ideas he learned in the support group, started to see slight improvements in their financial situation. However, the recovery was slower than he had hoped, and he encountered several unexpected setbacks, such as additional costs for repairing damage to the farm. The frustration of not progressing as quickly as he wanted weighed heavily on his shoulders. Emily, while continuing to seek support from the community, began to realize that her family's emotional needs were just as important as their financial ones. She decided to spend more time listening to and supporting her children, trying to make up for the emotional absence that had marked the previous months. However, balancing caring for her family while dealing with her own anxieties remained a constant struggle. Sarah, who had found purpose in her volunteer work, began to face a dilemma. The time she spent at the shelter was helping her emotionally, but it was affecting her school performance and her ability to help at home. She felt torn between two worlds, struggling with the pressure of fulfilling her responsibilities and the need to continue helping others. Tim, though initially engaged in the cabin project, began to feel the pressure of the family environment. His moments of fun and collaboration with his father were interrupted by tense moments and arguments. The instability at home started to affect his emotional health, leading to more erratic behavior and a growing sense of insecurity. In the midst of this turmoil, an unexpected event brought a new wave of hope. Emily received an offer of help from a local foundation willing to provide financial assistance to help the family stabilize. The offer came with the condition that the family participate in a guidance and skills development program, offering an opportunity for learning and growth. Chapter 8. On the Road to Recovery. With the support of the local foundation, the Harrison family began to see significant changes in their lives. The guidance and skills development program brought new opportunities and a renewed sense of hope for everyone. John, now more focused and motivated, began applying the knowledge he gained from the program to improve the management of the farm. He implemented new agricultural practices and marketing techniques that helped increase income. Although the recovery was gradual, the signs of progress were encouraging, and his feelings of frustration began to give way to hope. Emily, through participating in the guidance sessions, gained a new perspective on how to balance her personal and family responsibilities. She started establishing a healthier routine for herself, allowing her to better manage stress. The emotional connection with her children improved, and the household began to regain some of its former joy. Sarah, despite the difficulties, managed to find a balance between her volunteer work and academic responsibilities. She began applying time management skills she learned from the program and found additional support from her teachers and peers. The experience helped her feel more confident and less overwhelmed. Tim, seeing his family's gradual recovery, began to regain a sense of security and stability. The cabin project, which initially seemed like an escape, had now become a symbol of hope and collaboration. The interaction with his father and the sense of progress helped him feel more secure and optimistic. While the challenges were not yet fully overcome, the Harrison family began to see light at the end of the tunnel. The small victories and ongoing progress brought a sense of achievement and hope. The recovery was far from complete, but the family was finding strength in the lessons learned and the solidarity that united them during the crisis. Chapter 9, A Renewed Tomorrow. As the Harrison family's recovery continued, the challenges became more manageable. The hard work, determination, and support they received began to show tangible results. The farm was slowly getting back on track, and daily life was starting to stabilize. John and Emily, though still facing obstacles, were now more confident in their abilities and closer to each other. They had learned to better handle the financial and emotional pressures, and their communication skills had improved. Mutual collaboration and support became key to overcoming any challenges that arose. Sarah successfully completed the school year with good grades and a renewed sense of accomplishment. Her volunteer work helped her find a healthy balance and connect with the community in a meaningful way. She began to think more optimistically about her future and started preparing for new goals and dreams. Tim, who had struggled with insecurity and fear, was finding joy again in his daily activities. The cabin project was completed and became a special place for the family to spend time together. The interaction with his parents and the ongoing progress helped him feel more secure and hopeful. The culmination of their recovery came with the fall fair, the event that had once been a symbol of happiness for the family before the crisis. With the farm now in better condition and the help of the community, the Harrison family attended the fair with a new perspective. The event not only marked a celebration of their recovery, but also served as a testament to the family's resilience and strength. The success of the fair brought a sense of closure and achievement for everyone. The family was welcomed with support and enthusiasm by the community, and the feeling of normalcy and hope had returned. The journey had been difficult and full of challenges, but the Harrison family had emerged stronger and more united. With a new beginning on the horizon, the Harrison family began planning their future with renewed determination. The lessons learned during the crisis prepared them to face new challenges with confidence and hope, and their story of overcoming became an example of resilience and faith. Final chapter, The New Beginning. The sun began to set over the Harrison farm, casting a soft, golden light across the landscape. The warmth and light of the late afternoon created an atmosphere of tranquility that seemed to reflect the family's newfound peace. After months of struggle and challenges, peace was finally beginning to settle in. The fall fair had been a success, not just financially but also emotionally. The community had come together, and the Harrison family felt a renewed sense of belonging and support. Sales were good, but the real success was the reconnection with the community and the feeling of having overcome a difficult period. John and Emily, who had weathered the storm together, were closer than ever. They had learned to value not only financial security, but also the importance of communication and mutual support. What was once a source of tension had now become a testament to their resilience and love. Sarah was preparing for the next step in her life. She had received a scholarship to a local university, a recognition of her hard work and determination. Joy and hope had returned, and she was eager to embrace new opportunities and challenges. Tim, who had found new purpose in building the cabin, was now dedicated to learning more about gardening and farm care. He was involved in projects that helped revitalize the property, and he felt proud of the role he was playing in the family's recovery. As night fell, the family gathered in the yard for a small celebration. The cabin, now fully built, was decorated with simple lights and ornaments. They made a toast to the future and to the strength they had found in the midst of adversity. The feeling of accomplishment and gratitude was present on every face. They knew the journey had been hard and that challenges might still arise, but they were ready to face them with the same courage and determination they had shown during the crisis. The Harrison family story was not just about overcoming hardship, but about the importance of faith, unity, and resilience. As they looked up at the stars and reflected on the path they had traveled, they knew the true victory was in the transformation they had experienced and the lessons they had learned. Life was beginning anew, and the family was ready to embrace the future with hope and optimism.